A usually quiet Gwinnett County neighborhood swarmed.
Eric, that's right. Police tell us that a woman was found shot in the...
Cheryl's about her business. Cheryl put everybody in a position to win with her. Never in a million years would I have thought that would happen to her.
44-year-old Sharell Canty and detectives arrested 48-year-old.
Sunday, May 24th, 2026. Grayson, Georgia, a quiet suburb outside Atlanta. That's where the body of 44-year-old Sharell Canty was found. She was a co-owner of one of Atlanta's most recognizable nightclubs, a name that meant something far beyond the club scene. Someone whose name alone could open doors in the world of parties, music, and big nightlife business. A neighbor found a body. And according to official investigation documents, he didn't just call in a tragedy, he named a killer.
44-year-old Sharell Canty and detectives arrested 48-year-old Stephany Byrom in connection to that case. Byrom is now charged with murder.
He told police the person behind Cheryl's death was her ex-wife. What could push two former spouses to a point like this? What was actually going on behind the image of a successful career and a peaceful suburban life? What happened inside that house during the hours the rest of the neighborhood was still asleep? Today we're digging into this case, fact by fact, detail by detail. Sharell Canty was born June 29, 1982, in Syracuse, New York. She wasn't raised by her parents. Her paternal grandparents, Benita E. Miller and Bruce Mace, raised her instead. They're the ones who shaped the personality Atlanta's nightlife scene would come to know. Warm, open, but with a real inner strength. By the time of her death, both of them had already passed, along with her maternal grandparents, Barbara Jameson and Cleveland Canty. From childhood, Cheryl was part of Tucker Baptist Church in Syracuse. That's where she developed what she'd later describe as a deep knowledge of scripture and a maturity beyond her years. But she balanced that faith with a sharp sense of humor. People close to her remember her joking that only a handful of people on this earth were actually saved, and she counted herself among them. She went to Fowler School, also in Syracuse, just an ordinary kid from a working-class neighborhood in upstate New York. Nothing about her standing out from the crowd at the time. Then came 2002, the turning point. That's the year Cheryl made the decision that would reshape the rest of her life. Moved to Atlanta, Georgia. She didn't have money. She didn't have connections. What she had was determination and a clear picture of the life she wanted. Her early years in Atlanta had nothing to do with nightclubs. She worked at Jim Ellis, a major car dealership chain in the city, and later took a job at a liquor store called Green's Package Store. It was behind that counter that Cheryl first got a real look at Atlanta's nightlife world. The regulars, the promoters, the club owners, the rhythm of a city that never really shuts down. That encounter changed everything. Step by step, Cheryl worked her way out of liquor retail and into the far more exclusive, far more lucrative world of party promotion. She had a skill you can't teach in business school. Putting the right people in the right rooms, reading a crowd's energy, turning an average night out into something people would still be talking about weeks later.
Cheryl's about her business. Cheryl put everybody in a position to win with her. She took everybody to the top with her, including me.
That skill eventually led to the things she'd become known for. Co-owner and co-founder of a nightclub called Opium, one of the most recognizable spots on Atlanta's club scene. By the time she died, Cheryl had spent years in that role. She wasn't just an investor with a stake in the business, she was the face of it.
She was a happy person. She wanted everybody to have fun. She just wanted everybody to live their life in.
Staff at the club knew that the moment Cheryl walked in, everybody in the room knew it too. Beyond Opium, she also organized events for Atlanta's LGBTQ+ community, especially at a restaurant called Boogaloo, another venue where her talent as a promoter came through. Friends and colleagues described her as the connective tissue of the city's entire nightlife industry, the person every thread seemed to run through, from DJs and bartenders to other club owners and the regulars who kept coming back. But Cheryl wasn't only a businesswoman and a nightlife fixture. She had 2 kids. She just called them my kids, Cameron and Mackenzie. For anyone who only saw her on a club stage with a glass of champagne in hand, that side of her life was almost invisible. But according to people close to her, being a mother mattered to her just as much as running the city's trendiest club. The Opium Club deserves its own mention here. Today, it sits in the Home Park neighborhood on Brady Avenue, a fairly recent move from its longtime former location in Midtown. It's a high-end nightclub, packed schedule of themed parties, VIP sections, an atmosphere built around hip-hop and trap music. Atlanta's nightlife scene stopped being just entertainment a long time ago. It's big money, big names, a packed events calendar, and, as a result, plenty of attention from both the public and the police. Opium was no exception. Back in December 2022, when the club was still at its old address, there was a shooting right at the entrance. It was a busy night. Several events were happening nearby at once, including a major citywide ball, and a fight broke out in the crowd outside. Police moved in with pepper spray to break it up, and in the middle of that, a single shot went off. A man was hit in the leg. He survived, according to available reports. That incident has nothing to do with the story we're telling here. It's not connected to Sharell or to Stephany Byrom in any way, but it's a reminder that the industry Sharell spent her adult life in has always sat close to violence. It just never touched her personally. Not until 2026. Now let's turn to the second woman in this story, the one a neighbor named to police that Sunday morning. Stephany Byrom, 48, a resident of Grayson, was known around town for something completely different. She worked as a real estate agent, representing buyers and sellers throughout Atlanta's suburbs, affiliated with ERA Sunrise Realty in Duluth. Her professional world revolved around single-family home sales in the fast-growing suburbs of Gwinnett County. Where Sharell's public life was built on visibility and recognition, Byrom's work was quiet and grounded, showing homes, negotiating mortgages, closing deals, meeting clients one-on-one. And here's something worth pointing out directly. We know a lot about Sharell's life, her childhood, her school, her faith, her first job, her path into business, her relationship with her kids. Almost nothing is publicly known about Stephany Byrom's life before that Sunday. No interviews, no comments from relatives or childhood friends, not a word about where she grew up. Her own public posts are standard real estate content, open house announcements, jokes about finding your first home. Nothing personal. No reporter has found a single person willing to describe what Stephany Byrom was like before her name showed up in this case. According to several outlets, Sharell Canty and Stephany Byrom were once married. Then they divorced. Gwinnett County authorities have never officially confirmed or denied that marriage. Some sources cite police describing the women as former partners, while others insist the exact nature of their relationship was never made official. Exactly how and when the paths of a successful nightclub entrepreneur and a low-key suburban real estate agent crossed has never been publicly disclosed. What happened after the divorce is just as much of an open question. Did they stay in contact? Was there unfinished business between them? Shared property, mutual friends, anything that kept pulling them back into each other's orbit? No source points to a single specific incident from their life after the split, and that silence itself becomes part of the mystery here. Against that backdrop, the official classification of this case, domestic violence-related homicide, feels almost out of place. Normally, a classification like that comes backed by a paper trail, past police reports, neighbors calling in about screaming, restraining orders, friends describing a relationship under strain. In this case, none of that exists. No past conflicts on record, no prior distress calls, nobody in either woman's circle who says they saw this coming. For everyone who knew Sharell, this was a total shock. By all accounts, Sharell's final days were ordinary. On Thursday, May 21st, 3 days before the killing, she had dinner with her close friend Tamara Young, a former WNBA player who'd suited up for the Atlanta Dream. Young would later say that dinner was the last time she saw her friend alive, and that if she'd known how things would turn out, she'd have stayed longer. Even just one more hour, one more conversation. Before we keep going, if this case has grabbed you, hit that like button. It helps more people find stories like this one. Subscribe so you don't miss the next investigation. And drop a comment. What's your take on this case so far? Now, let's get into it. Sunday, May 24th, 2026. The Dove Lake neighborhood near Grayson Parkway, an unincorporated part of Grayson, Georgia. Wilkerson Way, new construction, quiet streets, family-friendly, the kind of neighborhood with manicured yards and cars parked neatly in the driveways. That's where Sharell Canty lived. Nothing about that Sunday morning gave any hint of what was coming. It started like any other Sunday. Then, at 8:42 a.m., a 911 call broke the silence. A neighbor was on the line. He told the dispatcher he'd found a person inside the house showing no signs of life. At that point, he had no idea what had caused the death, just that there was a body inside. How he ended up inside Sharell's home at that exact moment and what made him go in has never been publicly explained. Not by investigators, not by reporters. All we know is that the call came from him. Patrol officers were first on scene. The moment they found the woman's body, they called in homicide detectives and specialists from the Gwinnett County Forensic Laboratory. The area around the house was cordoned off immediately. Standard procedure anytime a body is found under circumstances that haven't been determined yet. For the first few hours, the picture stayed murky. Investigators couldn't immediately confirm a cause of death, so the scene got the most cautious label available: death of unknown origin. That classification gets used when there are outward signs pointing to a violent death, but the exact cause hasn't been confirmed yet, pending autopsy results, ballistics, and a full crime scene workup. Sergeant Jennifer Richter of the Gwinnett County Police Department told reporters at the time that investigators were simply trying to rule out foul play or figure out exactly what had happened inside that house. It was the kind of statement that comes from someone who genuinely doesn't have the answer yet. While forensic teams worked inside, patrol cars lined the perimeter, keeping everyone back. Neighbors watching from a distance later admitted that in those early hours, they were floating theories nowhere close to the truth: a domestic accident, even a natural death, because nothing on the surface pointed to violence. Detectives and forensic investigators worked the scene for hours straight. By Sunday evening, the house was fully cordoned off, and a line of patrol cars, an ambulance, and a forensic lab van stretched down the driveway and out onto the street. As the evening went on, the picture started to sharpen. Investigators determined the woman inside had been shot. According to arrest warrants later obtained by Channel 11 Alive, Sharell Canty had been shot twice in the head. Witnesses nearby that day say they watched officers carry several large black bags out of the house, standard procedure for handling evidence at a murder scene, though the specific contents were never officially disclosed. In cases like this, those bags typically hold physical evidence: clothing, bedding, household items that could matter to the investigation.
Tow away a white vehicle in front of the home. Neighbors tell us that they were shocked to hear that someone died.
Around the same time, a white car parked in the driveway got loaded onto a tow truck and hauled away as neighbors gathered to watch. Whether that car belonged to Cheryl, to a guest, or to someone whose presence turned out to matter to the case, that was never made public. What actually happened inside that house, during the hours the neighborhood was still asleep, was never laid out in detail. Was there an argument before the two shots were fired? Did Cheryl even see it coming? Or did it happen too fast for her to react, too fast to call for help? Was anyone else inside besides Cheryl and whoever pulled the trigger? That missing piece, the one that had stayed hidden all day, turned out to be bigger than just the fact of a murder. According to the arrest warrant, later made public, the neighbor who found the body that Sunday morning didn't just report a death. He gave police a name. According to him, the person responsible for Sharell Canty's death was her ex-wife, Stephany Byrom. The speed of what happened next is striking, even for a case like this. Only a few hours passed between the 911 call at 8:42 a.m. and the suspect's arrest. According to Gwinnett County jail records, Stephany Byrom was arrested that same day, Sunday, May 24th, 2026. Exactly what filled the gap between finding the body and putting handcuffs on a suspect was never spelled out publicly. Once homicide detectives had a name from a witness, the most likely next step was checking for any documented connection between that name and the victim. Marriage records, divorce filings, shared property, recent contact. What was happening with Stephany Byrom during that window is something the official record simply doesn't describe. On Monday, May 25th, Gwinnett County Police released an official statement. That's when both names, victim and suspect, became public for the first time. Until that moment, the case had no name attached to it as far as the public knew. Tuesday morning, May 26th, police released Byrom's mugshot from the county detention database. Sergeant Jennifer Richter, speaking to local TV stations after the arrest, tried to calm residents' nerves. She said investigators considered this an isolated incident and that there was no reason for the wider public to be concerned. It was meant to ease fears of a broader threat, but it said nothing about what had actually caused this.
That case, Byrom is now charged with murder. Police are calling this incident a domestic-related homicide.
At her arrest, Stephany Byrom was hit with 4 charges at once: first-degree murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. To this day, the motive hasn't been officially released. Police have stuck to a formal classification, domestic violence-related homicide, without spelling out what actually led up to it. One theory centers on the divorce itself. Splits that involve shared property or financial ties can breed tension that simmers for years without anyone else noticing. If there were unresolved issues between Cheryl and Stephany, money, property, or just old emotional wounds that could have been fertile ground for conflict. The charges against Stephany Byrom each deserve a closer look. Every one of them carries its own legal weight, and together they shape what happens to her next. Murder is the most serious charge on the table. Under Georgia law, prosecutors don't have to prove premeditation to win a murder conviction. They just have to prove malice. That can be direct, meaning a clear intent to kill, or implied, what the law calls a wicked and malicious heart, meaning the killing happened without significant provocation and with a total disregard for human life. Felony murder applies when a death happens during the commission of another serious crime. In most cases like this, it's charged right alongside first-degree murder, since the evidence supporting both counts tends to overlap. Aggravated assault covers how the harm was caused, the use of a weapon, or any action known to be capable of causing serious injury or death, and the firearm charge stands on its own. If she's convicted, it adds time on top of whatever sentence comes from the other counts. The staff at Opium reacted to the news the way a real family reacts to losing someone.
Never in a million years would I have thought that would have happened to her. Like I said, she was a respectable person. Everybody loved her, so I can't question God's plan.
TJ Henry, the club's manager and one of Cheryl's closest friends, became the main voice speaking to the press as reporters lined up for comment. He said what happened was simply impossible to accept, that the whole staff was grieving and that they missed her as a sister, a friend, and simply as Cheryl, because to them she'd been all three. He said he never could have imagined this happening to her. Someone who, for years, had lifted up everyone around her, himself included.
And then the other owner, he's very supportive. He helps us. He texts us every day to make sure that we're doing okay, if we need anything.
The club's other co-owner, a man named Kevin, his last name was never released, became a source of support for the staff during those first brutal days. According to Henry, Kevin checked in with employees every single day, asking if they were okay, if they needed anything. The decision the team made was unanimous, almost immediately. Opium would stay open.
It's definitely hard on the staff, but we are a family. We're going to stay a family. We're going to keep her legacy alive. That's all we have. That's all we have to do. Just keep the legacy going, keep Opium going, and make her proud from the skies.
Henry put it simply. If Cheryl was still here, she'd want them to keep going, to keep the club alive, because it was her creation. The first night the club reopened after her death was, by every account, brutal for the staff to get through. Vigils happened both in Grayson and at the club itself. Friends, family, industry colleagues, and regulars who'd known Cheryl personally came together to grieve. Her family shared their grief online too. Her cousin, Alita Hazel Ponder, wrote that she'd spent an entire day just trying to process the news. That Cheryl, someone she cherished deeply, had been killed the day before. Another cousin, Jamel, posted his own tribute, adding to a flood of condolences that filled the feeds of everyone connected to Cheryl's world during those days. One of the most emotional tributes came from Tamara Young, the close friend who'd had dinner with Cheryl just 3 days before her death. In her post, Young wrote that what happened felt like a nightmare, that Cheryl was one of the people she loved most in the world, someone with a genuinely kind heart, and that it still hurt just to write about her. The reaction went far beyond the people who actually knew Cheryl. The story spread across social media, reaching people who'd never set foot in Opium and never met her in person. In the comments under news stories and videos covering the case, strangers left messages of support for her family, many saying it made them think twice about how fragile even the happiest-looking relationships can be. Local and national media gave the case heavy coverage. Channel 11 Alive covered it through reporter Angelina Salcedo. Fox 5 Atlanta ran a segment with Tara Jabor. CBS News Atlanta covered it as well, among others. Gay Magazine, which covers the LGBTQ+ community, focused specifically on Cheryl's role organizing events for that community. For a lot of their readers, her death hit close to home. The case remains unresolved. Stephany Byrom is still in custody, waiting for the legal process to move forward. So what's still a mystery here? The motive behind the killing has never been officially revealed. Investigators have stuck to a formal classification without saying what actually led up to that Sunday morning. The nature of the relationship between the two women is still a point of contradiction, even among the sources covering it. Some say police confirmed a prior marriage. Others insist that detail was never officially clarified. For the people who actually knew Sharell Canty, the staff at Opium, her friends across the nightlife scene, her family, she's not a line in the police report. She's the woman who could light up a room just by walking into it, who built a business from nothing, and who still made time to be mom to her 2 kids. Her path, From behind a liquor store counter to co-owning one of the South's most recognizable clubs was built on the years of work. Nothing about how she lived her life explains what happened to her that Sunday morning. And if you strip away the legal terminology, the procedural details, every theory about motive, one question remains louder than all the rest. How do two people spend years together, get married, and then drift apart so quietly that not a single person in either of their lives saw this coming?